Why did Sweden's Charles XII exile himself in the Ottoman Empire? Imagine losing a major battle and then choosing to run to a rival empire for safety. That's exactly what happened to Charles XII of Sweden after a huge defeat. During the early 1700s, Sweden was fighting in the Great Northern War against Russia, Denmark-Norway, and Saxony-Poland. Charles had been a fierce leader, trying to keep Sweden a great power. But in 1709, at the Battle of Poltava, his forces were crushed by the Russians. It was a turning point that left him vulnerable and on the run. After the defeat, Charles barely escaped capture by Russian troops. He headed south, crossing into the Ottoman Empire, which was then a powerful and influential empire in Eastern Europe and the Middle East. The Ottomans and Russians had a long history of rivalry, so Charles saw an opportunity. He wanted to find safety and maybe even support to continue fighting. The Ottoman Empire, led by Sultan Ahmed III, welcomed him initially, seeing him as a potential pawn against Russia. Charles settled in the town of Bender, in what is now Moldova. He set up a small Swedish outpost with about 1,000 loyal soldiers. He refused to go back to Sweden right away because he believed he could still restore Sweden's status as a major European power. He tried to persuade the Ottomans to renew hostilities against Russia, hoping to weaken their enemy. But the Ottoman leaders were cautious. They didn't want to break peace treaties or risk a war they weren't ready for. As time went on, tensions grew. Charles's presence in Ottoman lands became a problem for the Ottomans. They didn't want to support his efforts indefinitely. He also refused to leave, even when Ottoman authorities demanded he do so. This led to a dramatic event called the Kalabalak at Bender, where Ottoman soldiers tried to arrest him. Charles resisted, showing his determination to stay and fight. His exile lasted about 5 years. During this time, he kept his claim to the Swedish throne alive and planned his return to continue the war. His stay was filled with diplomatic negotiations, military plans, and personal defiance. Eventually, he left the Ottoman Empire and returned to Sweden. Once back home, he resumed fighting, especially against Denmark-Norway, trying to restore Sweden's former glory. From a broader view, Charles's decision to exile himself in the Ottoman Empire highlights how complex and unpredictable the early modern era was. Sweden was losing its grip on power, and alliances crossed religious and cultural lines. His choice also shows how desperate he was to keep fighting, even if it meant seeking refuge in a rival empire. His time in the Ottoman lands marked a turning point in the decline of Swedish dominance and the rise of Russia as a major power in the Baltic region. His exile was not just about escape but about trying to find a way to continue his fight for Sweden's future.